Peter Dutton, thanks for your time. What's your reaction to the French recalling their ambassadors?
Well, Andrew, great to be with you on the program. Obviously, we've made a decision which is in our national interest. There's a very changing and significantly changing circumstance taking place in the Indo-Pacific, and we conducted a review because obviously over a couple of years now we've been concerned about the contract, and the review very clearly indicated to us that the nuclear-powered submarine was the best option to keep Australia safe, and that's the decision that we've taken. I can understand, of course, that the French are upset at the cancellation of the contract, but in the end, our job is to act in our national interest, and suggestions that the concerns hadn't been flagged by the Australian government just defy, frankly, what's on the public record and certainly what was said publicly over a long period of time. The government has had those concerns, we've expressed them, and we want to work very closely with the French, and we'll continue to do that into the future. But obviously we can understand, as Australia would be, France is upset at the cancellation of a significant contract.
But recalling their ambassadors seems a pretty full-on move, doesn't it? The accusation from them appears to be, and I know you just addressed it, that there was some form of duplicity on the part of the Prime Minister, that he met Boris Johnson and Joe Biden, went and had dinner with Emmanuel Macron, not telling Macron this other plan was being hatched.
Well, Andrew, all I can say is that we've been upfront, open and honest. As I say, the public remarks are there for all to see. There are comments to estimates. The French were so concerned that they sent out an admiral to meet with us a couple of weeks ago. The Prime Minister has been upfront and respects very much the relationship with President Macron, and similarly with my counterpart, Florence Parly. I've had conversations, and we've been open about our concerns, and we've been open about the fact that we need to act in our national interest. And given the changing circumstances in the Indo-Pacific, not just now, but over the coming years, we had to make a decision that was in our national interest, and that's exactly what we've done.
Could they have provided the nuclear technology, or that just wasn't possible?
It wasn't possible because we don't have a nuclear industry in our country, and the French model, the Barracuda model, has the need for the reactor to be charged, to be refuelled every 7 to 10 years, something of that order. The technology used by the Brits and by the United States means that the reactor remains intact for the life of the asset. So for about 35 years, it doesn't need to be refuelled, and therefore we don't need a domestic industry around nuclear. And that is a game changer for the Labor Party, and we wanted to make sure that this was a bipartisan effort because this project will span for a long period of time, and we wanted to make sure that there was support both from the government and the opposition. They wouldn't have supported the purchase of a French Barracuda that required the industry around nuclear to be developed in Australia. So I think we've got the right balance here, and clearly the UK model, the US model that we're looking at is a best in class in terms of the nuclear submarine.
All right, well, the submarine project, it'll be finished sort of by the late 2030s by the look of things. Will you consider leasing or buying existing submarines from the US and UK in the meantime?
The short answer is yes. I mean, there's all of that discussion to take place in the next 12 to 18 months, and already, obviously, I've met with a number of my counterparts here from the Secretary down in terms of those that are making decisions, and we'll have further discussions with the Brits as well. That's, as you would expect, the talk that you could just buy a nuclear-powered submarine off the shelf, of course, is just not accurate or correct, and I think most people realise that. The US has also got a very significant program of development underway in their nuclear submarine program, as do the Brits, and frankly, as do the French and others. The Chinese are pumping out submarines and frigates and aircraft carriers, etc., at a record rate. And so the rest of the world now, for a period of time, has really stepped up their production of those assets. And that, unfortunately, is the dynamic in which we're operating at the moment.
It's been made clear to us that it'll be significantly more expensive, this submarine project, than the $90 billion French project. How much are we talking about here? Could it be $200 billion?
Well, let's wait and see. I mean, we're in the process of negotiations now that we've entered into in terms of price and time, etc. I want to condense the timeline. I want to reduce the cost as best I can, but it's not going to be a cheap project. But maintaining peace is not something that comes for free.
What is the importance of some of the other measures that were announced, the Tomahawk missiles, the hypersonic missiles? These are missiles which can travel 2,000 kilometres. What are we getting them for, and how soon can we get them, and what's the cost?
Well, there's a lot more to the announcement. Obviously, the nuclear subs announcement was significant and has taken up most of the bandwidth, but sitting under that is a very significant enhancement in space and cyber. The thought that an industry like the power industry or the internet or banking could be closed down is a very real one. And again, we need to make sure that we've got the defences in place, but also the offensive capacity as well to be able to strike back so that people have to think twice about attacking us. And that requires money again. There's also an announcement by the US that they will cycle through many more of their assets, including subs and their aircraft of all types. Will spend more time in Australia as well. And in terms of the guided weapons and the missiles, the hypersonic capacity, we've announced $1 billion on the table already, and there will be more money required for that program. Again, it provides a deterrence, and it also provides us with the ability, given that we're an island nation, we've got choke points to the north, approaches through that part of the geography for us that need to be dealt with, and so there are a range of capabilities that we could use to strike again an extremist. But let's hope that it never comes to that. But there's no sense in something happening and then me saying to the Australian people that we don't have the capability to deal with it. We have to live in the times as they are, not as we want them to be, and that's the approach that we're taking.
From your time in Washington and your discussions with Secretary Austin, how concerned are the Americans about a potential invasion of Taiwan, that China would want to do that?
Well, Andrew, I think we only need to look at the words of the Chinese in relation to Taiwan. The Communist Party has been very clear about their intent, and obviously there's a significant concern about that intent here in Washington, but not just here in the United States. So, as you know, there's been a German frigate. The Brits have sent their assets out to the Indo-Pacific. NATO has been concerned. They were shouted down by the CCP, but NATO has expressed concern about what's happening in the Indo-Pacific. There are many other nations, including small ones, who frankly are intimidated at the moment. The arming of the so-called Coast Guard that's operating in the East China Sea, bumping up against Japanese assets on the water. This is, a time of high tension, and we want it to reduce. We want that peace to prevail in our region. It's served us well since the Second World War, and we need to make sure that every effort goes toward maintaining that peace, and that's the priority for the Americans, for the Brits, for the Canadians, for the Europeans, and for everybody else.
When you look at political interference, the cyber warfare you speak about, are we in a Cold War with China at the moment?
We want good relations with China. They're an important trading partner, and we want them to be a good neighbour. But where Australians have seen over the course of COVID even, the steps that have been taken to stop the import of Australian wines or barley or other commodities. Australian farmers actually, and producers, manufacturers have been quite resilient and found other markets. But Australia is one of a long list of countries that's been dealt with by the Chinese Communist Party of China in a particular and aggressive way. And we just don't want to see that conduct. We want to have a proper dialogue with the CCP. We want to have a respectful relationship, but we aren't going to compromise on these matters. We've introduced, as you know, over the last couple of years, bills and acts to deal with foreign interference, which is a very real issue in our country. The attempts to interfere in our democratic process, the theft of intellectual property, as I say, the commercial, industrial scale attacks on cyber now, the theft of people's health records, the attacks on aged care facilities and their computer systems during the course of COVID. This is all the conduct that we're talking about, the so-called grey zone conduct, and it's escalating, and we don't want it. It's unnecessary for a productive relationship, and I hope that the Chinese Communist Party can reflect on that.
What about this Port of Darwin ownership situation? Does that need to change?
Well, I've asked Defence to conduct a review of that particular issue. They're in the process of doing that. They'll provide evidence or advice to me, and then I'll return to the National Security Committee for a discussion on that. So there is a security element that we want to look at. We're doing that, and we'll make an announcement in due course.
And just finally and briefly, when you talk about more American troops being based here, how many and how soon?
Well, we'll have that discussion with the United States now. We've got the agreement to continue on, but I would like to see more troops, more training, and not just Americans. We have obviously a great relationship in the Quad with Japan and India, as well as the United States. We have a very important relationship with our Five Eyes partners, including New Zealand and Canada. We have collaborations otherwise where, including Talisman Sabre recently, a very significant exercise. People from nations, significant numbers came together. Obviously a maintenance and sustainment piece as well. So there's an economic dividend or silver lining in some of this. The sustainment of these crews and people who are based here. Obviously, there's a lot of money that is spent by those partners in our country. So there are swings and roundabouts with what's a very significant investment that we're making, but a very necessary one to reflect the times. And we've made a decision here, which is an historic one. It's in our national interest. It's designed to keep Australia safe and secure into the future. And that's my job. It's the Prime Minister's job, and it's what we've delivered on this week.
Mr. Dutton, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you.